going to start with you, Minister. There's a grand opportunity to leapfrog a whole bunch of things, and there's a lot of criticism in South Africa that some of the policy is lagging. Is there any way to kind of speed things up? We are still kind of waiting. Lovely ringtone, by the way. Thank you for that. That really lifted the mood. No, don't stop. There's a lot of criticism in South Africa that some of the legislations are still taking a long time. The set-top boxes haven't been resolved. What to do with the white space, that the digital dividend that should have filled up. Do you have any hopeful news for people about when we can see some resolution?
Thank you. As I said, the overarching framework has been completed now. And what delayed us, because as a comprehensive white paper, we have to deal with both demand and supply side measures. And we were waiting for the impact of the World Radio Congress 2015. And after that, then we have to align our policy to the new frequencies which are put. On the other issues, like you're speaking about white spaces, exploiting cheaper access frequencies, a lot of companies have allowed them to experiment with that. If we check our new policy, we have chosen not to regulate those aspects, including, for now, the over-the-tops for the next 10 years. And we said it really depends on the balance of evidence that do we need to really go to that, or should we allow the entrepreneurs to exploit those opportunities? So I think the policy we have now brings more certainty. The delays we are having in our digital migration project is of concern to all of us. But as you know, we are living in a very vibrant democracy. Sometimes people think things are falling apart. They never fall apart in South Africa. It has been through the challenges by some of the operators who have got certain concerns about policies. And we've been through courts, and courts takes a lot of time. And what I know now we're attempting as government is to really engage out of court so that we can settle these things, because our people are demanding that we must just do things now. I thought with those few aspects that we will be able to make progress, utilize what we have, utilize the innovation. And I actually like what you were saying about these cheap technologies, because I come from a rural town. I don't have these all nice things where I come from at Harding. I'm not even staying in a town in Harding. I'm staying in a very rural area. I don't know whether it's 1G or if there's something called 1G. It's so slow you can't get connection to any internet. There is mobile for voice.
We really have to do something about the ministerial house in Pretoria.
No, in Harding.
I'm joking.
I'm a migrant worker in Pretoria. So those are the things we're really doing. I think the policy certainty and the steps which are coming out there, what is more important to us, we're engaging the private sector and all other key stakeholders now on the implementation of the white paper. So that, because we can have good intentions, and when you do implement, you can actually cause harm, so that we can minimize harm and expedite the implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Well, I suppose, Chris and Thione, you are able to work outside of those parameters because your agenda is to deliver to your customers, I suppose. Chris, and Internet.org is an example of that. It is a very radically disruptive idea to find alternatives to get connectivity to people, and it's a big bet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a big bet that Facebook is making. But as I said at the beginning of my presentation, our mission is to make the world more open and connected. And people can't be connected to each other unless they're connected to the internet first. That's our view. So we're working hard in a variety of ways to overcome all the barriers to connectivity, whether it's infrastructure or awareness of the benefits to the internet or affordability. And we've had a lot of projects. Some have gone smashingly well. Some of them just blew up. And we're going to continue to, we're going to continue to innovate. We're going to continue to fail at times. But ultimately what we want to do is, unleash the power of the internet and unleash the power of people behind the internet and the opportunities that the internet brings them.
I mean, I think this internet thing is going to be big, just by the way.
I really agree.
Anyone disagree? Yes. And I suppose your focus is on one of my abiding passions, which is lighting, right? I mean, it is such a crucial thing, the ability for kids to study at night using, proper light, and the spin-off effects that having a small solar system that has a bit of battery so you could charge phones and maybe sell that resource to your neighbor. These are uplifting technologies.
Yeah, they are. And we're talking about internet here, but if you don't have energy, internet don't have no use for you. Because these folks, for you to be able to sell your internet, they have to be able to charge their phones or charge their computers. So I think it's fundamental what we're doing. And because of Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, we have almost 360 days of sun. We thought the best thing we could do quickly is to get into the solar system, because we looked at first building grids, but we saw that just to put the financing, the model together, it will take us another 2-3 years. And then coming to talk to the governments, and then from talking to the governments to bringing the money and everything that you need in place, 5 years is going to be in there to be able to build one big power plant. And these people need energy
Sound a little
today.
bit like government.
The sun is
Just
just there
kidding,
for
honestly.
everyone, right? And they cannot wait for tomorrow for energy. So we're talking about now how behind we are on internet, let alone now energy is we don't talk about as much, but I think it's the cornerstone of development. And what we've done with solar is in 3 different phases. First is public-private partnership with the government. In each country, we come in with our financing. And then when we come in, the first one is the public areas, hospitals, the mosque, the church, the things that government has to fund. And then the second piece, this one is like we have mini grid systems that can be plugged into that, and then you have the street lights and all of that. And then the second one is the home systems. This is the ones you just talked about, for a kid to be able to study with the small little light, or you have 3-4 lights in the house and the refrigerator, depends how much they can afford. That one is private. They have to buy it like they buy scratch cards. And then we have the third and last one is the mini grid systems that's been for private and public also. The governments buy it for public.
Well, if you need a
buildings
government
next to-
contact, I can hook you up.
Well, don't.
I know
We got
people.
it. Yeah, don't worry. I'll get him before he goes. Thank you.
Well, so I mean, just I'd like to end on something optimistic. I really think that as big as our problems are, so too is our capacity to solve them. And I'm going to start with you, Minister. We have some significant problems. Do you feel a bit of political will from your department can kind of drive through some of the policy things that have stalled in South Africa and open up that space to entrepreneurs and other people to develop these great things?
Yes, as I said, the biggest hindrance was a delay of the release of the digital dividend. And we're working closely with the Department of Communication to ensure that we can settle this matter. Because we know the spectrum is oxygen for the operators. So we need to release that as soon as possible. Currently, we're working with a CASA, but also not only as South Africa, we really appreciate this initiative because they are small initiatives that will be big, but Africa is also changing. The Agenda 2063 is calling for these type of activities of collaboration. We are stopping the wars in Africa. We are focusing on major infrastructure. If you check, for instance, just the hydropower through the Grand Inga project, which is hydro, it's clean energy. It can power the whole of Africa. We can even export to Europe. I think they need it most, but we need it first. So those are some of the projects which, as we build these roads across our countries, we were saying at the same time we must put the basic infrastructure.
Yep.
As I was looking there, some of this basic infrastructure, particularly backhaul infrastructure, is going to be critical. The closer it is to the majority of the people, the easier for the entrepreneurs to come with the last-mile creativity and services to the people. So there is hope. We have policy certainty now. We have worked with our industry to put these new BE codes so that they are not a burden, so everyone buys into it. There is a greater eagerness to us to speed up things, so that by next year we should have legislation in place in most of the things. So there's absolute certainty about where we're going and where we want to take our country. This thing of the internet access is so powerful. You know, people in Washington, they're talking about fourth industrial revolution. We're still in the first year, if not the second. Maybe we're just on the third. So it's going to be important that we're not left behind forever. I think the young generation, the creativity of our youngsters who come to us every day, is so great. It just needs to be harnessed. And I'm very happy also that some of our learning institutions, they are creating these hubs where they nurture the young people to spend about a year to innovate under supervision, and so that they can see whether their technology can come to fruition. We are partnering with those universities who are doing such things and companies which are helping us with the innovation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Minister. Chris, I don't want to sound too geeky or geek out too much, but Cwele, I mean, that is really wow stuff, right? A drone, a solar-powered drone that beams down the internet. I mean, it's the stuff of science fiction, but actually now it is real. That's a pretty cool project, right?
It is a pretty cool project, it's a long-term project, and the team has made incredible progress over the last couple years. Just getting the plane built, entirely powered by solar power, and then flying. Now we have a long way to go. We have to keep it up in the air for many days, many months. We have to put a communication payload on it that's going to beam down internet access. But I frankly think a lot of the hard work is, or a good chunk of the hard work is now behind us, that we know that the platform can fly.
Literally.
Yeah. So we're very optimistic about Aquila, but we're also generally optimistic about connectivity. The reason being that we really believe in people, and we believe that people now really understand the benefits of connectivity, and if we simply put the tools in their hands to deliver connectivity cheaply and sustainably, that the world is going to bring itself online.
I totally agree. Who needs government? Just kidding.
I'll tell you,
Just kidding.
You asked for reasons for optimism. Coming from America over the last 2 weeks, the minister's comments on the resilience of democracy may be the greatest comfort that I've heard on this stage so far.
That's true.
Yes, we have advice on how to survive a populist leader.
I'll talk to you later. Talk to you later.
Thank you. And it's up to you to leave us with this last optimistic view of Africa. And I really think it's that innate problem-solving ability. As we say in South Africa, a boer maak 'n planne. A farmer makes a plan. And we're pretty darn good at it, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very optimistic about where we're heading in Africa. You know, projects like this give us a lot of hope, and if we have governments who are willing to create the space, the level playing field for investors to come in and do their part, I believe we can really look for a very optimistic future. A lot has been already done. It's just that we, young people, especially young Africans in the diaspora, we have a very, very important role to play, and we can't watch along the sides for investors alone doing it. We have to be in the middle of it. We have to drive the change that we want to see in Africa, and this is the reason why we are, from the United States, coming home to make sure we contribute and to do our part. And this is the only reason why I'm optimistic about the future of my home continent.
Great. Well,
Thank
thank you. And that is really optimistic. So just to sum up, we have a willing government who has white paper and legislation in practice. We have rich multinationals with very cool projects that float in the sky all by themselves and beam down the internet. And we have a generation of repats coming back to our continent, bringing the skills and the knowledge and the enthusiasm to solve our very real problems. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Hey, man, your project is beautiful, man.
Thank you.